Okay, and finally the last page of our 5.2 notes, you'll move into some application exercises or some word problems. Again, just because the problems get more complicated or difficult isn't going to change what we know how to do in this section. And what we know is to use the substitution method to solve a system of equations. So you can expect to solve a system of equations, two equations working together to get the solution that works in both equations, and you can expect that it'll be using the substitution method because that's the section we're in right now. Again, come exam time, you'll be able to choose which method you prefer that works best for you, graphing, substitution, or the addition method. So follow along on page 308, number 42 here. I'll read what it says and we will tackle it together. The music business is evolving into a digital marketplace. The bar graph shows that from 2003 through 2005, CD album sales declined while digital track sales grew. And so there's the graph. In green, you have digital track sales climbing, CD album sales declining. Here's the years that they tracked that. Here's the sales in millions. The data can be described by the following mathematical models. So again, recall from Math 60 that the graph represents your real data, stuff they have actually measured. And then your models or your formula are the algebra that describes the real data, okay? Or it approximates the real data. Okay, so it kind of looks like the sales are growing in a straight line fairly steeply. The decline is in a little bit more of a shallow line, but still somewhat of a thing you can imagine, kind of a connect the dots situation here. So these are equations that represent the lines that approximate the real life data. And here they are. The album sales are y equals negative 23x plus 656. Where y represents your sales in millions, that's your y-axis here. X represents the year. And in this case, it's the number of years after 2003. Okay. And then the digital track sales is represented by the second equation here, y equals 189x plus 20. And then part A says to solve the system. Well, we know how to do that. Even though it represents a story here, we're going to go ahead and just do what we know to do algebraically, what we've been practicing this entire section. Both of these are solved for y, so we can go ahead and just set equal to each other. As the way of substituting. We're just taking this top equation and substituting it in for y at the bottom equation. So it looks like negative 23x plus 656 is equal to 189x plus 20. Add the 23x to both sides. And I get 212 x plus 20. Subtract the 20 from both sides. I get 636 equals 212x. Divide both sides by 212, and I get x is equal to 3. From there, I can pick either equation. I'll go ahead and take this top one here, y equals negative 23 times x plus 656, and we'll plug in our value for x. And what we get is negative 23 times 3 is going to be negative 69. Plus 656. which is going to be equal to 587. So our final solution set here is 3, 587. That's the answer to part A. Now let's read what part B says. Based on your solution from part A, when did digital track sales catch up with album sales? How many digital tracks and how many albums were sold in that year? So now we're using our knowledge of interpretation, because when you solve the system, it's where the lines intersect. It's where they cross on the graph, or where they are equal. In this case, it's where track sales caught up to album sales. So when did that happen? Well, it happened when x equals 3, and 3, or the x value, was defined as the years after, what is that, 3 years after 2003? Which would be the year 2006. So when did it catch up? The year 2006. And how many digital tracks and how many albums were sold in that year? So in 2006, there were 587 million tracks and CDs sold that year. In other words, we could put 3 into either equation. For album sales, you'd get 587. Put it in for track sales, you would also get 587. So that's when that was the year they caught up to each other. Make sure you take some time to talk through what you've seen in this section with somebody, or just out loud to yourself, so you really get it cemented into long-term memory. If you have any questions about anything, please bring them to class or to your help resource. And again, use the video as you need to get your notes copied here. You'll finish the assignment with some review and preview exercises, and we'll see you in 5.3.